If you haven't heard about Light in the Dark, you're missing out a great, simple, fast but very satisfying light dungeon crawler. Now, if you haven't heard about the game and you haven't played it, then most probably you don't know that there is an expansion coming out which is called Fires of Thokaia. Still, there is a chance to get both the expansion and the core game from the new reprint coming on GameFound and crowdfunding. I'm very excited to show you the expansion of Light in the Dark, Fires in Thokaia, and I'm even more excited because I already enjoyed and loved the game. It's a very fast, simple, light dungeon crawler with a great scene. So you're a plague doctor exploring lands and trying to seek and heal sick people and fight off monsters along the way, and has all the elements that you like in a quick, fast adventure. So if you like to see how this plays, you can go and see my how to play video and review where I explain the game and I share my impressions from the game. And then I also have a playthrough, solo playthrough. It's a purely solo game, but I'm super excited because the expansion now, which is hitting crowdfunding, it's bringing a ton of new things. It's improving an already fantastic system. It brings more enemies. It brings more ways to play the game. It brings a cooperative, competitive mode, so now it's not only a solo game, it's 1 to 2 players. It brings also improvements in the way of exploration, in the ways of combat, in not ending up in dead ends when you're exploring out of drawing cards and so on, and you have to backtrack, etc. So you have also dangerous paths that you need to pass, like rivers, mountains, forests, etc. But there is a chance you get some damage, and also the quests are improved now because there is an effect about the quest that you're chasing to perform and get the points, so you can have a success or a fail. The enemies, instead of coming all towards you, now they have a specific goal. For example, the Emberlings are trying to burn down villages. Oh, it's really, really nice. I'm getting already so excited. I want to share all these details with you. So if you haven't heard anything about Light in the Dark, it's a fantastic game, compact, meaningful, and with a lot of gameplay that comes in a small package, and brings all this nice solo experience, so a meaningful experience. It's not on the very, very light, but it's light enough to read a couple of pages of rules and get right into it. Now, the campaign that's coming, which I'm going to add a link in the description below, has a series of things improving with the expansion, with the gameplay. So if you are already an owner of the Light in the Dark, you should definitely not miss out on the expansion, because I'm telling you from the rules, and you can find the rules I think from the campaign, and you can find out on your own more details, or see the explanation of this video now with the highlights presented. There is a ton of new things that add value. So you have a fantastic game system, which is great already, and there is a new expansion which it just doesn't add more of the same. It adds a ton of new value, gameplay value. More ways to play the game, competitive, cooperative, different ways and different patterns, XP system for upgrading your hero, different ways of patterns of the hero, of the enemies, which move based on their priority. Wow, really, really nice improvement on an already great game, which makes it, in my book, fantastic. Join me on the table. I'll show you all the different highlights. If you don't know anything about how the game plays, it's very simple, but you can also see the previous video I made, Light in the Dark, and how to play a review. But I'm going to approach this presentation as if you don't know the basics on how the game works. So here and there I'm going to explain some things about how the core mechanics of the game work. And then I'm going to build up on the additions and the added value on the gameplay. So join me at the table, I'll show you how the game plays, and come back at the end of this video with more excitement, obviously, because you already know I love this game, and I think it's a must-have, both the core game, but now with the expansion it's amazing. Join me on the table and let's see how the game plays. Mysterious faction known as the Cult of Ember has emerged in Thokaia, preaching salvation through flame and sacrifice. Their influence is spreading rapidly, corrupting townsfolk, manipulating the desperate, and waging a silent war against the healers who stand in their way. As a plague doctor, you must navigate this new treacherous land filled with dark rituals, indoctrinated followers, and corrupted beasts, unravel the cult's secrets through new narrative-driven quests, face off against unique enemies, and acquire powerful new abilities that test your resolve and strategy in fresh, challenging ways. With more content, deep choices, and heightened danger, Fires of Thokaia adds a darker edge to your journey. The cult of Ember burns from within, and then it's only the question will you extinguish the flame or be consumed by it. Welcome to this how to play review video on the expansion of Light in the Dark, which is called Fires of Thokaia. I'm going to focus on the highlights of the additions of this expansion. As I mentioned, there are quite a few and they're very, very interesting. I'm very excited about those. So let's start straight ahead with the solo game. Even the solo game on its own is changed with the expansion. First of all, let's see the differences. For the setup, we set up the game similarly with the base game, with some changes. First of all, we remove the terrain and quest cards from the base game. These cards are shown in front of you. These are not part of the setup. You only need the starting card, which has the starting space in the middle of the terrain card instead of having them at the edges like before. So you only need this S starting card. I'm just spreading a few across so that you can see better the new terrain cards. You don't use the old terrain cards. These are removed from the game and you only use the new ones. So you set up the start terrain card, you place your hero standing on the designated space, exactly in the middle of the S starting terrain card. That's the only terrain card you'll be seeing at the beginning of your quest. You place the appropriate tokens on the spaces on the terrain card like we do always. For example, I have 2 herbs here and 2 items here. And then you choose a quest chain scenario to play. In the prototype I have received, you can only find 2 scenarios. You have the wolves, which again have 3 stages. So you have stage 1, as you can see here, stage 2, and stage 3. These are new quests. We have a new format here. If you're familiar with the original Light in the Dark, the core game that is, you see that the quests were without art and with a different structure as well. So there are two quests in this prototype for us to try. So we had the Wolf scenario and the Cult of Ember scenario, which is the one I've set up here to play. You only need the first stage of the card. I just lay them one next to the other so that you can see as an overview. So you only start with the stage 1 card from the Cult of Ember scenario. And then you place, as you can see, on the first spot where there is this icon, the turn tracker, the turn marker. So this is how you start your new quest. So for the Cult of Ember scenario, you play with the following enemies. So you use the wolves from the original core game. I'm assuming you know how to play Light in the Dark. If not, I have already released a how to play review video where you can find details about the instructions on how to play the game. So maybe you need to check that one as well first. So for the Cult of Ember scenario, you use the wolves, you use the Crimson Bandits, the Forest Giants, and the Emberlings. You remove the cultist enemy components and the cultist enemy card from the enemy deck, and then you place a stage 1 card from the Emberling scenario in front of you, and you place a random marker, as I've done already, on the starting space of the round track. You set up the enemy stat cards. This is something new. We have the enemy stat cards here. I'm just going to use the cultists, which are not used in this scenario because we have the Emberlings instead of them. But just to show you the format, now heroes have a stat card. They start with a marker on the first one, and each time you defeat one, they level up and they progress and they become progressively stronger, which is very, very interesting. So their stats are here, as you can see. Okay. And also the priority target when they move. So really nice to have a unique card for each of the enemies used in the scenario. So in this scenario, we're going to be using wolves, Crimson Bandits, Forest Giants, and Emberlings. Speaking of Emberlings, this is a new enemy added, as I have shown during the unboxing of the prototype. In the scenario that I'm mentioning and I'm setting up here, I'm replacing, according to instructions, the cultists with the Emberlings. The Emberlings, it's a new, let's say, faction or a new enemy, which is obviously focusing on corrupting and spreading their cult, if you want. Okay. So we're going to be using those, and in any case, for all of the selected enemies we have in each given scenario, we're going to place one respective enemy marker at the beginning of the track, and this is going to be moving across as in the course of the game. As you defeat more enemies of those type, they essentially become stronger and they level up. The next thing that we do is we set up our hero. So here I have selected my hero. As you can see, we have our starting stats, and there are these, let's say, upper limits, which are used to depict that you cannot progress more than that unless you level up. Then you choose a class and you put it next to your hero. Let me just show you again one for your reference. I already selected the medic here, but this is a format of the class card. This is a berserker, and you start by placing on the level 1 section. This is level 1, this is level 2, and this is level 3, and you start by placing your experience cube here on level 0, on 0 spot of the level 1 track. As you progress, you will be progressing across this track, and theoretically, once you reach this one, you will be able to upgrade and gain access to very, very unique and interesting abilities. And the same goes for level 2 and level 3. And this is a new addition in the game. I really like the character progression as you wish, but not only the character progression, also the character class or path. Because if you're a medic, you have different abilities from your level 1 to level 2 to level 3. The same goes if you're a berserker, and of course there are more to be explored. The next thing we do is we reveal a minor quest. There is a deck of minor quests in this prototype, and these are quests that give you additional victory points when you follow them. And these are independent from the main quests, or I don't know, the big scenario quests, as you wish to call them. The next thing we do is we set up the market. Here's the market over there. And that's another thing I like about this expansion is you don't just draw a random card from an item deck. You have a market with a display, with small items, with normal items, and with crafted items that you can also craft, which is also interesting. So you remove the herb mix, the Plantipore poison, and the adrenaline shot. For those that they are familiar with the original game, these are the cards that they need to be removed from the original item deck of the base game. And then you add additional items which are included in the expansion and mix them and shuffle them all together, and then from that you create a stack and reveal 3 cards next to each other next to the item deck. Once you've done that, you shuffle the crafted item deck, which has a distinctive back. It says crafted item, as you can see on the back, and there is a different set of cards which you can craft, and then you reveal again 3 of them and one next to each other. So you have essentially a row of crafted item cards and a row with normal item cards. Beneath them you have the small items, and then you randomly select 1, 2, 3 and place them so that each column has one of those tokens. Just to show you how these look up close, this is the small item token, and this is just an example. This is how the market is going to look after setup. Then you place the face and turn cards in front of you with 1 cube starting on the new round space. As you can see here, that's the new card. Maybe let me take the opportunity to show you up close. Again, you can go to the unboxing of the prototype, which I did separately. You can find that you can have a better up close look on the components of the prototype. So you place the card next to you. You start here with the next round. And after you've done that, then you are ready to start. Just a minor thing about the anatomy of the new cards. Let me just show you a bit. For example, here you can see on this wolf scenario, we have again the round track at the bottom. And again, Once you completed stage 1, you go to stage 2, so the collective length of rounds is the sum of all the different spots that the round marker is moving at the bottom of each of those cards. You have 3 of those, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. The different thing here with the quest is you have the quest objective, okay, and you have a success and fail box, which is really interesting, because once you complete it, you'll see that you have this. If you successfully completed, you read and execute the success box. If you failed, and gain the renown victory points. If you fail to do so, you read and execute the fail box, which is the one here. For the minor quests, as we mentioned, there is a deck of those, and you start the game by just revealing one of those next to you, face up. This card represents side quests that you can complete optionally during the game. So whenever you heal a sick village, you draw the top minor quest card and reveal it, and then when you complete the objective of a minor quest, you just discard the card and receive the bonus as shown on the card. So that's another extra little thing to chase by trying to cure sick villages, heal sick villages. So, how to play and win. A game of Light in the Dark Fires of Thokaia lasts a set number of rounds equal to the number of round spaces on the 3 main quests. Again, this is stage 1, so you have this for stage 1, this is from stage 3 actually, and these are from stage 2. Okay, so you see at the bottom of each of those stage cards, you have a selection of round spots. The sum of all those 3 quest cards makes the length of the game. Now, in the expansion, you cannot entirely lose a game. However, you can be defeated in combat multiple times in a single game. I remind you that in the core game, if your stats and your health were 0, that meant that you may lose the game even without completing it, which was a bummer, but of course it was part of the gameplay. Here there is something new. Here you cannot entirely lose the game. You have consequences if you continue being defeated, but you can be defeated multiple times during a single game. This may affect, of course, your final score, and in any case, you will play all of the rounds of the game to conclude the full game, which is interesting. And I think I really prefer it that way. Each round consists of a hero phase followed by an enemy phase. So the player hero phase, you perform 3 turns by moving here, here, and here, in a similar fashion like we do with the core game. During each turn, you will spend movement points equal to your dexterity stat. In this case, here it's 3 for me, with the hero I selected, or play optional actions. Each optional action costs 1 movement point to play. You can play an optional action and then continue moving in the same turn if you still have movement points left for that turn. If during your turn you move onto an enemy token space during one of your turns, that turn ends immediately and you must combat the enemy. Now that's a big difference from the original game without the expansion. I mean, you could battle and combat enemies from, so if I had an enemy next to me, I would be able to combat him. Now with the expansion, I need to be exactly on the spot of the enemy, and for that matter on the spot of any item, location or token to interact with it, so no adjacent to fight enemies. Drawing new terrain cards. In Fires of Thokaia, drawing a new terrain card does not cost you movement points, and that's a great thing because you will always need to spend 1 additional point when at the end of any terrain card to reveal and put the next terrain card and continue moving potentially. So here with the expansion, it does not cost you any movement points. As in the base game, when you place a new terrain card, place all the tokens in the marked spaces of that new terrain card, and you draw an enemy card for each enemy space token on that card to determine which enemy token spawns on that enemy space, in the same fashion like with the core game. However, in Fires of Thokaia, as you already noticed, when you spawn an enemy token, you will advance that enemy marker on the corresponding enemy card by 1 space. So maybe before I was confusing, not when you defeat an enemy, I think I said when you defeat an enemy, when you spawn a new enemy. So each time you spawn an enemy, this is going to progress. That means if you spawn your 3rd wolf, the wolf will be there. But if you spend your 4th wolf, your fourth wolf will be here, which means the wolf will have, instead of 2 movement points, it will have 3 movement points with a +1 there. So you can imagine that the more of the same enemy type they are spawned, the stronger will become, because they will be higher on their stat card. Another interesting choice, or I should say highlight, is that you have a 4x4 grid. In Fires of Thokaia, the map is limited to a 4x4 grid. And that means you cannot have 5 terrain cards in a row, which you could have in the original game. Additionally, if, for example, you want to move away from the bottom space of the map, on the bottom space in a column already containing 4 terrain cards, you will end up in the top space of the top card in that same column. Moving like that costs 1 movement point, and that's a fantastic thing, because as you can see, I already placed a 4x4 grid so that you can envision it, how it looks like. But what it means is, if I'm suddenly here and I want to go all the way up there, that's easier, because with 1 movement point I can get out from here and enter from here, and with another movement point get out from there when I'm at the edge, and then enter from there. That means moving across the 4x4 grid map on Fires of Thokaia now becomes more flexible, with more options, and most importantly, you don't end up in dead ends, or unnecessarily end of the trip for you, and then you need to backtrack to go and pursue your goal. Very, very interesting, and that's something that was a fantastic improvement on the original game. Another thing is the difficult terrain. In Fires of Thokaia, some terrain cards have difficult terrain: mountains, forests, and water. These are paths that are a bit more risky for the hero, but sometimes unavoidable to move across. When you move across a difficult terrain, you perform a check after you move to see if you will lose 1 health or not. Depending on which difficult terrain card you move through, you perform the corresponding check. Let me show you here, because it's summarized on the health card. You can see that if you moved on a mountain, you roll 1d6 plus movement. If you rolled on if you're moving through a forest, you roll 1d6 plus intelligence. And if you move on river or water, it's 1d6 plus strength. And if your result is between 0 to 5, that means you pass the risky terrain, but you have to lose 1 health because you were injured. If you rolled 6 or more, that means you pass without losing 1 health. That's also really nice, because now you can take advantage by deciding to risk or not through more difficult terrain. Because, for example, here, you see, from here I wouldn't be able to go on that terrain card, but there's 1 plus 1, 2 difficult mountainous terrains, which if I take the risk to do, I will be able to reach a desired destination across this risky mountainous terrain easier, but I may take damage. So that's also something really interesting. So as I said, for mountains you roll d6 plus your dexterity, for forest 1d6 plus your level, not your, this stands for level, this brainy icon stands for level for the forest. And for waters, your d6 roll plus 1 plus your strength stat, as it is on your hero card, respectively. Right, so there's also optional actions. In addition to the base game optional actions, there are a few more optional actions. You can rest. You play at a healed village. You spend 1 movement point there and fully restore 1 of your stats, health, dexterity, or strength, up to the base stat marker, which is this new marker set there. You spend a hair to heal 1 health. You can search, so you play at an enemy spawn point, and you spend 1 movement point, roll 1d6 plus int, and then from 1 to 4 you fail, 5 to 6 you gain 1 coin, 7 more you gain 1 item. You can also heal a village. You spend 1 movement point, and when you heal a village, in addition to healing the village, you also gain 1 coin, which is actually the village token. So as you remember from the core game, when you reveal a card and it has a village icon, you would have to place, like this one here, you you would have to place this village token there. That means that village is sick, you cannot pass through unless you spend a herb to heal them. In this case, once you do, while you are on the village, you also pick up the token and acts as a coin, which you can spend later. In addition, you also draw and reveal a new minor quest card that you can pursue for more victory points. Take an item. To take an item from the market, you must be able to pay with coins and or enemy tokens. So again, let me show you. This is a card. Okay. So one of those cards. So you can spend either coins, which are heal village tokens, or enemy tokens, which if I defeated one enemy, let's say I defeated these Crimson Bandits on a location, I can pick them up on my inventory. And I can spend village tokens, which are coins, plus defeated bandits or monsters which I'm carrying, enemies, to acquire and buy items from the market. A new thing I have to mention here is the inventory. In Fires of Thokaia, your hero has two types of inventory. The first one is the normal inventory. You have a card item inventory, so it's limited to 2 cards. Okay, so I can have, let's say, the blade and the spear, and that would make up my full inventory. But in addition to that, I have a small item inventory, which is limited to 4 item tokens. Small items and enemy tokens you gather from defeated enemies will take up space in your small item inventory. So for example, small items like this, or defeated enemy tokens like this. I can carry them on me and they take one of the 4 spaces I have in my small inventory capacity. Healed village tokens and herbs never count towards the small inventory. These are free to carry with you as many as you wish. At any time, you can discard an item card or a small item token to free up space for new cards, tokens in your inventory. So, use of small items. To interact with any location, enemies, tokens, your hero must be on the same space as the token. And this is a difference from before. As I said, you could be able to heal a sick village from the adjacent space. You will be able to attack an enemy from the adjacent space. Now you need to be on the location to interact with enemies, locations, and tokens. Activation markers. When you interact with a space on the map, you place an activated marker pointing to that space. These are these activation tokens, which are new to the game. And you place them pointing to that space. A space with an activated marker cannot be activated again during the game. We also have XP and abilities. In Fires of Thokaia, you have a class card, as you've seen. Let me show you the Berserker, but I have the Medic in front of me. So you have, as you can see, a class card that depicts abilities your heroes can learn and use as the game progresses. You start the game at level 0, so you can reach new levels and unlock new abilities from your class by gaining experience points. The total experience points you have earned is tracked with a cube starting from the current level, so from 0 here. And then you progress as you gain more. Whenever you defeat an enemy with equal or higher level than you, you gain 1 experience and you progress. Also, you gain experience from successfully completing main and minor quests. When your experience marker reaches a space with arrows action, like 4, 8, or 10, you level up. When you do, you unlock 1 ability from that level, which means you have access for the level 1, and then you place 1 cube in either of to unlock either this or that, and then you acquire this respective level ability. And you gain also the stat bonus depicted on the square, which is an increase. Using abilities. You can use your unlocked abilities at any time the text allows you to do so. To use an ability, you move its cube marker to the right so you exhaust it over its text. An ability cannot be used again until the marker has been reset, and whenever you reset, the cube markers are reset all of your abilities. And that happens when you rest. So when you rest, you reset your abilities as well. So, enemies, new enemy stats and spawning points. In Fires of Thokaia, each enemy has different behaviors and moves according to their enemy card. For example, and really important, the Emberlings, as you can see, which is one of the new enemies added, they have a priority when they move. And they're moving towards the villages which are not healed. They're trying to burn them. Okay, so this is their priority. And if not, then they're moving towards a hero. So each of the enemies has different priority. And this is really interesting because in the original game, everybody was moving towards the hero. Okay, which was becoming a bit of cumbersome at some point, in some cases, if everybody was trying to corner you or cut you out. Here they have different priorities, and still, some of them may target you and they may try to do damage to you, makes sense. But as you can see now, for example, healing villages is much more important because you can also gain the item as a coin. The token as a coin, and you can spend it to buy things, so you also need to try to play accordingly. So in Fires of Thokaia, each of the enemies has their different base stat, health, dexterity, strength. This may be altered during the game as the enemy marker advances in its track and unlocks new bonuses by spawning each additional new enemy. So the enemy marker starts at the starting slot, as I said, here, on the highlighted starting slot, and you advance the marker each time you spawn an enemy of that type or defeat an enemy of the type. So now I'm circling back because, as I said, not only do you spawn enemies when you defeat them, when you not only you progress on their card when you spawn a new enemy, but also if you defeat a new enemy. So let's say no new enemies were spawned of wolves, but you defeated 3 wolves, so you will progress them 3 times here. When the enemy marker reaches a space with a bonus stat, that enemy type gains the bonus, as well as any other bonuses for the rest of the game. And spawning boss. If you're about to spawn an enemy of a type and the enemy marker is already at the boss slot, you see each of those cards has a spawn boss point at the end. Okay, so when they reach the end of the track, by any of the means I mentioned before, you will be spawning a boss. You spawn the boss of that enemy type instead of that enemy spawn point. The boss acts the same way as the enemy type, however it always has 5 health. Additionally, there can be multiple different bosses present on the map, but only 1 boss per enemy type. Finally, you may encounter the same boss a few times during a game, depending on the main quest cards. Enemy level and priority target. During each of the enemy phases, each enemy moves according to their dexterity. The enemy level determines the order in which enemy tokens move. Higher enemy levels move first. Additionally, when they move to their priority target first, whichever is closer to them, and then you follow with the next one. So here, for example, wolves is level 1, so they would move first. Okay. Last. 1 means the smallest level, the lowest level. But let's say the forest giants here are 3, so they would move before the wolves, which have level 1. So level 3 moves before of level 1. Okay, that's the correct way. If the enemy reaches their target and has a specific action they want to do there, they immediately do it. For example, burn the village with the Emberlings. If the enemy still has movement points left after that action, they continue their movement to their next valid target. For example, when the Emberlings reach a village healed or sick, they will burn it, place a burn token there, even if it was healed, and then they will move towards the next token. There is also the drop. After defeating an enemy, if they shown the drop, you roll 1d6 and if you match the results on the drop of the enemy, the drop loot essentially, you gain that reward. A few words about the enemy phase. As in the base game, after you perform your 3 turns, you resolve the enemy phase. However, in Fires of Thokaia, during the enemy phase, the enemies move according to the rules. that they are from the Fires of Thokaia expansion. You move each enemy token on an adjacent terrain card towards a priority. So you pick the enemy token and you move it to an adjacent terrain card based on the priority. Okay, so they don't follow a path, they move towards an adjacent, on an adjacent terrain card towards their target priority. If your hero stands on a space connecting two terrain cards during this phase, you choose one of the two cards to consider it as a base card for which you will calculate the adjacent terrain cards. Additionally, when considering the priority target for each enemy token, only consider the adjacent cards. The enemy tokens are, let's say, blind to non-adjacent cards. The combat. In Fires of Thokaia, combat occurs whenever your hero is on the exact same spot as an enemy token. The defeated enemy. After you successfully defeat an enemy, you may put that enemy token in your small item inventory. Enemy tokens from your inventory may be used to craft items and or fulfill various quests. Remember, we have the crafted item display over there. Hero defeated by enemy. If your hero is defeated in combat by an enemy, you proceed to do the following. First, you place your hero standee on the nearest free village. Okay, so they will respawn there. So essentially, you don't lose the game, okay? So you respawn to the next free village. You reset your hero current stats according to the base stats, okay? Even if you have lower stats. Then your hero receives extra coin and herb tokens. You remove the enemy tokens that your defeated hero was, that defeated the hero from the map. So if an enemy token defeated you in combat on the location that you are, it's out of the game. So it did its purpose. It defeated you, okay? It will send you to the next free village, but still it's out. Then it's out of the map, and then you proceed playing as normal. The end of the round. As in the base game, you move the round tracker forward to the space to the next quest card, possibly triggering enemy respawn. The enemy respawn is resolved as in the base game, however, with the following changes. The enemy respawn if the round marker reaches a space with an enemy respawn icon, for example this one here, you see. That means that you're going to have a respawn there. This is the enemy respawn point, and it will point on the adjacent terrain cards. Essentially, when the round reaches one of those spaces, you respawn enemies on each free enemy spawn point on the adjacent terrain cards from you, okay? From your hero. Final round and main quest card. If the final round of the main quest cards has ended, you resolve that quest. You determine if you have successfully completed the objective or failed to do so, then apply the effects. Afterwards, you set up the next stage card and you put the time marker starting on the first slot of that card. The game ends after, let's say, an X amount of rounds, depending on the 3 stages, stage 1 plus stage 2 plus stage 3 spots. And afterwards, what you do is you proceed by summing your renown in the following way. First, completed quest. You gain victory points from each stage card where you successfully completed the quest. So if I manage to complete in this stage 3, this will give me 2 renown points, and so on. This happens for all your main completed quests. You gain 1 renown for each free village. You gain 1 renown for each free village on the map. A free village is considered a village that is healed and doesn't have any other token, like burn token, for example, from the Eberlings. You gain renown according to your level of your class card, okay? If it's level 1, level 2, or level 3. By level 3 you gain 3 renown, as you can see on the card. You gain 1 renown for each boss you have defeated, even if you have defeated the same boss multiple times. You gain 1 renown for each coin in your possession, and you gain renown as bonus from quests, minor quests, etc. And finally, you lose 1 renown for each time you were defeated in combat during the game. Let's say I was defeated 3 times in the course of the game, I will lose -3 victory points. After that, you sum up your renown and you calculate your final score. You also have the campaign mode. Okay, now that was a solo, but let's speak about the campaign mode, where you play out the 5 main quests for each enemy to complete the campaign, and there is narrative section for each of those, okay, in the new rulebook. And then I want to highlight that we have also the two-player rules variant. I'm not going to go into too many details because I think the most important thing was to see the different changes for the solo mode. But it's important to highlight that there is a two-player variant which has, for the cooperative mode, which has a slightly different, a few more additions for setup, okay, but nothing too much. The important thing is that the round structure changes, okay. You have 2 turns per player for a total of 4 move actions, okay. There is also some cooperative actions, like you can trade, you can heal with each other, okay, so you can give items to each other, and so on. And the game ends as normal at the end of the game, and you calculate the renown score for each player, and you combine both scores. But there is also something which takes place during the cooperative game, is that for the main quest, every quest objective must be completed 1 additional time, okay, so to balance out for 2 players. So this is interesting because you can play very nicely cooperative game with 2 players, and the interesting thing is you can also play competitive now with versus mode, where essentially you also have a different setup. Instead of starting from a single spot, you start with a 3x3 grid, okay. There's some additional rules again, which I'm not going to highlight, not to make this video lengthy, on how to play. So in order to win in a competitive mode, your objective is to gain more renown than your opponent, and when you gain renown points, you add them to your tally, and you track them on a piece of paper or any other means. So you gain priority by doing the following in the competitive: by gaining 1 renown whenever you heal a village, 1 renown whenever you burn enemy spawn point, gain 1, 2, 3 renown whenever your hero levels up to 1, 2, or 3 like before, gain 1 renown whenever you finish a minor quest, as depicted on the card, the quest card, gain 1 renown whenever you craft an item, and gain 2 renown whenever you defeat a boss. Okay? Gameplay follows the same rules for Fires of Thokaia, with some exceptions. Each player has 3 turns now, because they are playing against each other to get the more victory points, the more renown. There's some small changes and additions that you need to read when you're playing competitive, a versus mode, but I'm going to leave it to you to explore if you're interested in that game mode. In all, new, great, improved solo, fantastic additions. 1 to 2 player now cooperative, you can play together with another player cooperatively, and you can play also competitive, one versus the other. So there you have it. These are all the additions of Fires of Thokaia Light in the Dark expansion. Very interesting, and happy to see that on the table. It's a fantastic addition. So let's wrap it up and see you back up. So there you have it. This is Fires of Thokaia. This is a must-have expansion. Literally, I'm not exaggerating here. If you own the game, if you're satisfied with the experience of Light in the Dark, you should definitely not miss out, because this expansion, in my opinion, doubles the value of the game, or maybe triples it, I don't know. And don't get me wrong, the original game, before seeing the expansion, I really enjoyed the game, had a great time. It will never go out of my collection. I'm also a solo player. I play with my gaming group, but I also enjoy playing solo, and this is when I want a fast dungeon crawling experience. There are not so many options out there, and this is one of the best as a core experience. It has some minor things that they could have seen improvement, like, for example, you may end up after exploring in some situations where you need to backtrack, and there are ways to get into your objective from the core game I'm talking about. But all this, which still made the game great, all these were approached from a design point of view, from a development point of view, really nicely with the expansion. So the expansion doesn't fix a broken game. The game was fantastic. The expansion takes a nice game and makes it amazing, in my opinion. And the reason it makes it amazing is because now it adds a ton of value in terms of gameplay, options, meaningful changes, meaningful additions. You can still play the core game if you're fan and just pick some things from the expansion, like the new enemies. But even the solo experience on its own. You have new cards, which also now you're playing on a 4x4 grid, so you cannot go, like, you know, all the way down on the line or sideways and expand, and then you end up in issues. So you have to be on 4x4. And the best addition in that is when you're on the bottom of the 4x4 grid, and you can go from the bottom even southward and then go from the same column on the top and then continue walking. That means flexibility in terms of getting access to some areas of the map, once, especially towards the second half of the game when it's more explored, it's there. So you don't end up in, now how can I get back there, because I need to pass through a ton of enemies because they're all coming toward me, and you can still do it, but it was more challenging. And now with this new approach, it makes it much more smoother. So the solo game on its own, with these minor tweaks, is amazing. The additions on the solo, the new quests are amazing, the new enemies are amazing. The fact that the new enemies are moving towards specific targets. I mean, they're not all coming towards you to, take you down. Some they do, but some they're coming towards the village. For example, the Emberlings are going towards the village to burn it down, and you want these villages because now you can rest in villages and heal up to your maximum health. Amazing. You can want the villages because once you heal them, you pick up the village and you convert them into a coin, and you can spend the coin to craft items and buy items. And you do the same with your defeated enemy tokens, because you have now two inventories. You have two items inventory like before for the big items or larger items, and you have a second inventory with small items and defeated enemy tokens, and are counted towards this capacity, not the coins / villages healed. And you spend those to buy new items or craft items, so you can become even more powerful from a more targeted structured way. What else? The fact that you can play now cooperative, and the cooperative game is really interesting. It's not just playing together, two people squeezed into a solo game. Now each hero has 2 turns instead of 3, and then you have common objectives, and each main quest needs to be fulfilled one more time. I forgot to mention now the minor quest is an amazing addition, because you don't have also the main quests, you have also the minor quests. If you're defeated and eliminated, the hero who defeated you is out of the way, and then now the token is out of the way, so it in essence clears up the map, so it doesn't create dead blocks, bottlenecks for you to pass through. But you're not out of the game like was before. They changed also something which was really nice. Now, whenever you want to interact with something, even fighting with an enemy, you need to be on top of the enemy token. So that means that you don't fight from adjacent areas. And also the fact that you can traverse through difficult terrain makes reaching out difficult areas or faraway areas of the map, especially towards the end of the game, an easier or at least a viable option. Before it could be even close to completely difficult to achieve, depending on how you reveal cards and how the map was out there. Still, you had a ton of fun, but the odds were against you in some cases based on how the map there and cards were revealed. Now the new approach is fantastic. The fact that you can play competitive, you're competing against another fellow player to try to get the more victory points at the end. There are a ton of additions that indeed they add a lot of value. Even from a pure solo approach, you know what I mean, is enough to get me excited. The new tweaks, the new modifications, the new quests, the new components, even the deluxe add-ons. I've picked on the crowdfunding GameFund campaign page, and I've seen that instead of tokens now they have these wooden pieces, and it's an amazing addition because in this game you're picking up tokens of enemy tokens and move them all the time. If they're wooden little enemy meeples, this is a great addition in terms of deluxe add-on, and I'm definitely happy to see that. So all in all, great game, a ton of value, amazing improvement. Don't miss out the expansion. I'm highly recommending it, and this is Fires of Thokaia, an amazing first expansion for Light in the Dark.